wouldn't you like to be able to accept death and look at it a little differently? Stay tuned because I have somebody here that has a totally different outlook on death. So today I have with me Christina Hollett of Yoga Life, and she is a grief counselor. She's an internationally certified end-of-life practitioner, as well as a yoga practitioner and a Reiki master. So she has a pretty much everything happening at her wellness center in Grand Bay, New Brunswick, and she's a great resource. I'll have all her contacts in the description. So Christina, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you get to this place to become an end-of-life practitioner? It's kind of like, it's not even something that most people even know what it is. So how did you get to this place?
Well, it was a long journey, but I guess it started when I worked in the ICU and watching patients and the fear that people had to make the decisions that needed to be made. So from that experience, watching many people go through a prolonged process that didn't need to happen, I decided that's not what I wanted my death to look like. When my father was ill, I decided that that wouldn't be what his looked like either. And from there, I just continued to practice, as you said, like yoga. All the energy modalities lead into this one place. We are all going to pass eventually, and I want to help people be able to do that the way that they want to and help their families facilitate that.
Wow. So you really have quite the path, because to go from practicing yoga into this very important role, like the end of life practitioner, that's quite a journey, quite a leap. What exactly do the end of life practitioners do?
Well, they're much like a death doula, or sorry, like a birth doula. A death doula is on the other end of life. So you would facilitate with the person that's dying in every way that they need, whether it's the direction that their family needs, or making sure that they have everything that they want as far as comfort. Oftentimes they just want to have lavender oil or something so simple, but they won't express it. And as well, their family won't ask, because often people don't talk about death and they're fearful. And so I'm there to facilitate between the dying and their family, as well as bring some ideas forward, like legacy projects that people often, when they're passing, before they go, they have ideas of what they want to leave or what they would like their grandchildren, great grandchildren to see. And these are often easy to do, but nobody stops and slows the process enough to think about it. So I'm there to help in any of those ways for the family and for the person that's passing.
Well, it's just it's so important. It's a really important role, because when people that you love are sick or dying, you're not in a place where you're thinking about everything. How could you? You're not thinking about what they need and what they might like to have, you're trying to make your loved one feel comfortable, but you're so involved in the grief process. You really need that person beside you to facilitate, or to think of the things that there's no way, you could ever think of. It's just such a cool thing. And I guess for the people that don't know what a doula is, in general, can you kind of explain that?
Well, a doula it can be anything from a spiritual guide to a physical presence in the room. So a doula basically is just way back when, it was a woman who gave service and who facilitated in whatever medical thing that was going on. Back in the day, it was birthing. Of course, we had people that were in end of life care as well. The thing about birthing and death that changed, I guess, as time goes on, we improve all the practices when it comes to having children, but we never do when it comes to dying. So the same fear that was there forever ago remains, and people don't know how to move past it. We're born, it's almost born into us. So a doula is really that person that's just going to gently kind of take you and say, it's okay, talk to me, especially the person that's dying, because often they have so many things that are going on when they appear to be sleeping, or just in their thought process, their fear, anything they want to discuss, but they don't want to put that on their family.
Right.
So there's that person there that can say, it's okay, I can take it. So you tell me, I will listen. Very often I don't give any advice, because it's not for me to give advice, but it's for them to be able to, I hold the space for them to speak their truth and what they need to get.
That's it for me. It's like that, the holding space is so important, because there's no judgment, or there's no advice to be given. It's just a very comfortable, safe space that's created. I just think that the whole idea is like the gift that you can give to your loved one as they go through that transition, is to find somebody like you. Like if you're going through something like this with your family, like get in touch with Christina, because it's the gift you can give them at a time when it's so difficult. And I love that you started out with yoga, and it's kind of morphed into Reiki, and then morphed into this, because there's such a spiritual occurrence, or such a spiritual event, in death. And for me as a medium, I see it, and I see the beauty. I see the beauty of that transition.
Yes.
And I feel it. And it is sad, but sometimes in sadness and grief, there's beauty too, because the sadness is just a symbol of love. It's just another place where love goes. And so for me, I see these transitions all the time, because spirit comes back to me to talk to their loved ones, and they show me what happened to them. And so I love that you came from this, maybe more from a practical experience. It sounds like with your dad, but also from that spiritual place, because that's really what they need to believe and know, like their loved ones are going to be okay too. And so it's like you're setting that tone. You're changing the cycle of the anguish that people feel when they feel like their loved ones' wishes weren't upheld, or they weren't honored, and you're there to kind of catch all the pieces. So I love that. So I know we were talking earlier about a few things, and it's pretty clear. I mean, I think you can clarify this, but it seems like you could pretty much help any family that's experiencing the transition of a loved one. But is there a specific family or person or client that would fit better for you? Or is it just sort of like, are you thinking that it's just sort of like anybody that's going through this transition? I'm just like kind of wondering if there's people that are in a better position to receive the kind of help that you give.
I don't think so. I have a varied, I guess, tool belt. So if I'm dealing with somebody who is especially spiritual, I can help them through with Reiki. If I'm dealing with somebody who, I was talking to Chad about it the other day, and the amount of people that still feel that it's necessary to call in, I don't think it's wrong, but to call in ministers when they haven't gone to church, or they haven't practiced religious practice for years and years and years. Things like that, I think I can facilitate a little bit of change, because their heart just needs to be settled and held. They don't necessarily, the forgiveness, I guess, that they feel that they need to give somebody is not something that they need to do externally. It's something that they need to do internally. So I feel like I can facilitate in any area. There's still an element. I've gone to every church going. I've been member of every church going. I taught Sunday school for years up until COVID happened. So I'm in touch with that aspect of myself, but I am spiritual in nature. I'm not religious. So, but I'm very much connected to anybody that is. I grew up Baptist. I went to Anglican church. I have other areas that I can relate to all that as well. So I don't think that there's any specific, I guess, person that would be more in touch with me.
Okay.
I can pretty much.
Yeah, because to me, I feel like anybody could benefit from this as long as they were open to the help, like anybody. And
yes.
And I love that you have so many different perspectives, so many ways of looking at this. because I think you're right. I think the first thing people do is they call for that minister, and even myself, even doing the work that I did, I still looked for that person. When I lost a child, I still looked for that person, and the only person that was available in the hospital was a minister. So he came, and my favorite psalm is Psalm 23. So I asked him to say it, and he said, "Oh, I have to go get my Bible." And here's me, I knew it off by heart. So
Oh,
so
yeah.
he had to run and get his Bible so he could say the blessing that I wanted. And of course, he did what I wanted, but it was just so funny in the moment. I was like, wow, I'm not even a religious person and I know Psalm 23. So kind of funny, um but it's those kinds of little elements that can make somebody's passing actually very special, like more like a loving experience than it has to be painful. So all this work, you must feel very different about death.
I think I always have felt different about death, but even as I worked as a secretary in the ICU for a lot of years, I'm a dental hygienist, but I went back there. I would go in sometimes with my nursing staff to prepare a body afterwards because that was important to me. As a secretary, I had nurses that would be like, Christina, do you want to come in? Because
Can you help
I felt
me?
such a connection. But that medical side as well, I've seen a lot of unnecessary fearful families that made some decisions for their loved ones that was extremely hard to see. So I don't regret that part of my life and that learning experience, but certainly I want to facilitate in the change because if people weren't so fearful and if they had, I don't want to say I have a passion for death itself, but I think the process is like you said, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. You can take, this is still your person. And I think people disconnect from that once death happens. There's such a beautiful process that can happen afterwards too, with preparing them and washing them. You can wash them with lavender oil. You can make it so beautiful and spend the time. And it's something that we're all, not all, but a lot of people are scared of. A lot of people are just scared to. And I think if they had somebody there just to say, it's okay. Like you can cry the whole time. You can hold them. You can do whatever you want. Like it's okay. Like everything is okay right now. Whatever you choose is what's right. But you don't have to, it's not such a sterile process is what people are scared to death to die at home, which is a shame. Like they have their surroundings and their people and their energy there, and they are removed from that to go to a clinical setting. And especially with COVID right now, it just breaks my heart because people can't be there even a lot. So home is really something that we need to kind of progress to.
I
It's
feel
just
like that too.
it's the start.
Yeah, I feel like that too. I feel like there's so many lessons in the pandemic, and there's such a highlight on family or your chosen family. Like we've
Yes,
really highlighted that throughout the pandemic and who's important in your life. And you really, I would think now the way the hospitals are, it would be encouraged for people to try to stay home. And I could see that you have the resources to try to help a family, accomplish that and make that happen. And, I think a lot of people, if you ask the individual who was dying, if they want to go to the hospital, they would probably almost always say no.
I agree.
It's the family that gets, like you say, fearful. And
Yeah.
there is like this way of honoring people that we've lost. We've lost in our North American culture, maybe other cultures, but I feel like we've lost the honoring of that cycle, that part of the life cycle. It's not,
I
we don't
agree.
look at it the right way anymore. We don't see it as the blessing. And it really is. It's that person has lived their complete life cycle, and nobody leaves this earth before their time. And when they're ready to go, it's a beautiful thing to be able to honor that life and celebrate it.
I agree.
And I like where I like where your work is headed, and I'm really happy that to hear like you're on that, you're sort of on that track. And I don't I don't know a lot of death doulas, you know. I know it's probably a fairly new field, but so
Here.
needed. So needed. I mean, especially right now with the pandemic, you know, you don't there's not enough space in the hospital to, or not enough time, or not enough effort can be given to this really amazing time in somebody's life.
I
So
agree.
like the way I and the way I see that these things happen, it's just so, it is so beautiful at the very end. You know, a spirit family steps forward, they support their loved one that's passing. You know, the energy of the person is always alive and ever present, even though the physical body isn't strong enough to hold that energy anymore. And it is, there's such beautiful love and light that comes in that transition, and to know that nobody ever really dies. The physical body just, it wears out, you
Ceases
know.
to exist. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So if somebody if somebody how would you see this fitting, like at this time in the world where so many people are like awakening on a spiritual level? um where do you see the profession going? because because
Oh
i
my goodness.
because I feel like it's like where you are, it's on just the edge of like exploding, you
I
know.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Oh my gosh. I think that honestly, it's just to rewind a little bit, like Reiki and spiritual practices come so deeply intertwined with all this work as well, because you can actually help a person shut down their chakras in a way that makes the transition easier. When
Mm.
people start to realize, I think people are coming into, as you said, people are waking up to everything. They're starting to see more of the world. And when they start to really pay attention to energy and how it works, and then things like chakras don't sound so foreign, then I just feel like it's gonna, I don't, I'm pretty passionate about it, but I don't think that the first call is always going to be a minister at that point. I think people are going to be seeking somebody that, or they're going to be their own, they're going to come into their own light and be like, this is my energy. And anybody
Yeah.
can at any time decide that they're ready to, and then they can help their family. They can be that light in their family that changes things and changes how we die and how we live. Because ultimately, if we can drop the fear of death, then we live more openly too. So it's like, it's reclaiming what we have today instead of constantly. And I mean, COVID has put so much dark heaviness and fear into people. It's truly a shame, but it has brought people more awareness in the long run. It's been hard, but
Yeah, well, spiritual awakening and that spiritual path, we, you know, because we're human, because we move kind of slow sometimes, you know, pain tends to be our touchstone for spiritual growth, and that seems to be the way. But you work with kids too, and teaching kids meditation and yoga. Wouldn't it be different if kids knew, if you knew from the time you were a kid that death is a natural part of life, not to be
right.
feared, and that, you know, the transition's so beautiful? I mean, I really think like, and I don't know what you think about this, but it just feels like to me we have this amazing opportunity right now to start teaching kids and youth more about not just their spiritual side, but the fact that death's very natural and beautiful.
100%. I do, as I do yoga classes, so I do 12 weeks, and at every time that we meet, there's an element of, I don't want to say energy work or, you know, but I always introduce them to something. It could be as simple as a neti pot, or it could be as complex as like actually doing a mantra and figuring it out why in your mind that works. One of the things that we do talk about is death, but we talk about it in a way that I describe it as a light that they're born with, and this light gets brighter. The things that they do for people, it shines a little brighter, but then as we get older and things happen, it could be a pet, and then usually that's what I reference is a pet or something. The light can go, it can get dim for a little while when they work through things, but it never goes out. It's always going to be shining bright, and it's always going to be. So we talk about it a little bit. That's not my place to obviously talk about death of people's children unless they bring them for that purpose. But I do feel like it's very much part of being connected to your body. So when we're doing yoga and we're doing moving meditation, kids have fear. So young kids, especially, they don't really understand that death is final. So anyway, it depends on what group that you're talking to, but
yeah, for sure. I think I'm just kind of dreaming a bit. I'm like dreaming about,
oh no, it's yeah,
when we can teach like kids so that and that, but we have to be in a place of acceptance of that too. So maybe it's not the kids we have to work on, maybe it's the adults, but
it's the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, I just feel like your work's so important, and so glad that you could come on today to talk about it. And this is the best gift. I feel like it's the best gift that you could give your loved one as they're, making that transition. So if anybody wants to contact Christina, you can contact her at the theyogalife at outlook.com, which I will put in the description, but she also has a Facebook page called Yoga Life Holistic Health Studio. And she is in New Brunswick, physically New Brunswick, but we're all technologically advanced now. So I'm sure you could reach her through email and you could talk to her that way as well. But I'm so happy that you decided to do this. And it really fits well to with what I do, because there are people that, they come to me because their loved one has had a terminal illness, and they really want to know like what's going to happen and what can I do. And I can't, because of the nature of my work, I can't spend a lot of time with each person. You know what I mean? I have them for an hour and a half, and then I don't have them. So it's nice that I know that you're there, you're a resource, and I can send them your way. So yeah, if anybody wants to give that gift to their loved one, Christina's the one to step in and help you with this and give your loved one that gift. So
thank you, Laura.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for talking to me today. And I just hope that people know that this is such a growing and a budding field, and they can get in touch with you and get help with this. And that's such a relief. It's such a relief for most people.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.